This video is about the farmer walked in the rain until a businessman changed his whole life. If this story inspires you, please like the video, share it with loved ones, and write in the comments how it touched your heart. Asterisk, the farmer walked in the rain until a businessman changed his whole life. Asterisk. The clouds hung low over Maplewood, casting a heavy grey shadow across the rolling fields. Benjamin, a weathered farmer with calloused hands and a heart full of dreams, trudged through the muddy paths of his farm. The rain poured relentlessly, soaking through his worn-out boots, but the rhythm of the raindrops against the earth felt familiar and oddly comforting. He wiped his brow as he paused under the creaking old oak that stood by the edge of his property. For years, it had been his sanctuary, a place to seek solace when the weight of the world pressed down on him. Standing there, Benjamin's mind wandered to the past, a time of laughter and sunlight when his father had taught him the intricacies of farming. "Life is like this soil, Ben," his father had often said, kneeling beside a freshly plowed field. "You will have your share of storms, but it is how you nurture the ground afterward that counts." With each passing year, the storms grew more frequent. Droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather patterns turned his once thriving farm into a constant battle for survival. Today, the rain was a reminder of the abundance he longed for, but it also threatened to wash away the last remnants of his hopes. His neighbors had long since given up or moved to the city, chasing dreams of brighter futures. The chatter of thriving businesses, growing families, and bustling streets only deepened his sense of isolation. Yet Benjamin remained, stubbornly clinging to his land and the legacy his father had left him. As he resumed his work, his thoughts were interrupted by the distant hum of a car engine. He looked up to see a sleek black sedan rolling slowly down the dirt road leading to his farm. It felt out of place in the rustic surroundings and piqued his curiosity. The car came to a stop, and a well-dressed man stepped out, adjusting his tie and squinting at the rain. Benjamin straightened his back, wiping his hands on his overalls, unsure of what to expect. The businessman approached with a confident smile, though his eyes reflected the seriousness of his mission. "Hello there, I am David Morgan," he said, extending a hand. "I am looking for a local farmer. Hope I am not interrupting too much." Benjamin shook his hand, feeling the warmth in David's grip despite the dampness in the air. "I am Benjamin. What brings you out here in this weather?" David glanced around the fields, taking in the hard work that had gone into every inch of the land. "I am looking for sustainable farming practices, and I've heard about your dedication. I want to collaborate on a project." Benjamin furrowed his brow. "Sustainable farming? I barely keep the lights on, let alone think about projects." David stepped back, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "That is exactly why I am here. You have the ground and the heart, the rest can be built together. Let us turn your struggles into opportunities." For a moment, Benjamin felt a flicker of hope ignite inside him. It had been ages since anyone had shown genuine interest in his work. But his past failures loomed large, casting shadows over his ability to trust again. "I don't know, Mr. Morgan. I've tried partnerships before and they never went well." "Call me David," the businessman said softly, his tone shifting to one of understanding. "I get it, trust takes time, but think about the impact we could make creating a model farm that others can look to." Benjamin shook his head. "It is not just about the farm. I am struggling to keep everything afloat. I don't have the resources for something grand." "Resources can be found. Passion and grit, that is what you have in spades," David replied, his eyes steady and encouraging. "We can start small, a community garden, perhaps, something to showcase what you do best." A community garden. The idea marinated in Benjamin's mind, stirring memories of his childhood, playing in the garden with his father, planting seeds and nurturing them to life. "I've always wanted to share the beauty of farming with others," he finally admitted, a smile creeping onto his face. "Then let us do it," David urged, his excitement infectious. "We can host workshops, invite schools, and teach kids about where food comes from. You'll be the heart of this movement." As the rain continued to pour, Benjamin felt the dampness of doubt slowly lift. In David's presence, he saw a glimmer of the future he had longed for, a chance to revive not only his farm but also the community that had withered along with his dreams. "What do you need from me, then?" he asked, curiosity sparking hope deep within him. "Let us at a meeting to discuss ideas and resources," David replied, pulling out a small notepad. "We'll need a plan, but I can help you navigate everything." They exchanged contact information, and as David prepared to leave, he paused, looking directly at Benjamin. "Remember, every storm has its purpose that reshapes the land, makes it stronger. You have the resilience to pull through, I know it." With those words echoing in his mind, Benjamin watched as the businessman drove away, leaving behind a trail of hope in a muddy road. He stared out across the vast fields, the rain still falling, but for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The next few days were filled with hard work and contemplation. As the rain continued to nourish the earth, Benjamin found himself sketching plans for the community garden, the vision blossoming in his mind. He couldn't ignore the excitement that bubbled within him, urging him to take steps toward the unknown. On a Tuesday morning, Benjamin stood at the edge of his property, a mound of soil awaiting his touch. He imagined the laughter of children, the joy of families picking fresh vegetables, and the vibrant colors of flowers bursting to life. But doubts crept in as well. What if David's interest faded? What if the community didn't embrace the garden? Though what if loomed large, but he recalled his father's words about nurturing the ground. In the days that followed, Benjamin found encouragement in the simplest things, the way the sun broke through the clouds, the excited chirps of birds returning, and even the laughter of a few neighborhood children playing nearby. Each moment felt like a gentle nudge from the universe, reminding him not to give up. Finally, they met again, sitting at a small table in the local coffee shop. David laid out a plan, his enthusiasm infectious as he detailed how they would secure funding and gather materials for the garden. "We'll start with just a small corner of your farm," he said, pencil dancing across paper. "Then we can expand." Benjamin leaned forward, feeling the weight of his indecision lift. "What if we host a launch event, invite families to come see the garden take shape?" "Absolutely, that'll get people interested," David replied, his eyes sparkling. "Let us show them the beauty of farming and the joy it can bring." As they mapped out ideas, Benjamin realized this wasn't just about the garden or his farm. It was about rebuilding a sense of community, a connection to nature, and rekindling the spirit of hope that had dimmed over the years. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Benjamin felt himself transforming. He found joy in the simple act of digging into the soil, planting seeds that represented not just crops, but the dreams he had dared to forget. Through collaboration, support, and unwavering determination, he discovered that resilience wasn't merely about enduring. A farmer's spirit thrived in the willingness to grow, adapt, and inspire others. And as the first green shoots began to break through the earth, Benjamin stood back and smiled. Hope was sprouting in the form of tiny leaves and fragile blossoms, a testament to the beauty of human spirit and the promise of a brighter future. In the heart of Maplewood, the farmer who once walked in rain now stood on the cusp of something extraordinary. A journey of transformation had begun not just for him, but for the entire community. Benjamin took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill his lungs, and knew that together they would weather any storm. ***, the farmer walked in the rain until a businessman changed his whole life. Part 2 ***. With each morning, the seedlings in the community garden pushed through the soil, reaching for the sun as if they recognized the beauty of their purpose. Benjamin stood back, his hands on his hips, watching the transformation. The garden was more than just a project, it was a manifestation of hope, a bridge back to the community he had almost lost touch with. As he walked under the morning sun, neighbors began to stop by, drawn in by the colors of the blossoming flowers and the scent of wet earth. An old friend, Martha, paused at the fence, her hands clutching a basket filled with freshly baked bread. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "What's going on here, Benjamin? I didn't expect to see you so alive again." "It is the garden," he replied, his voice nearly drowned out by the joyful chatter of birds. "David and I are trying to create something special. I want to share farming with everyone." "Mind if I lend a hand?" Martha asked, a warm smile blooming across her face. "Of course, we could use all the help we can get," Benjamin said, feeling warmth spread through him. As they worked together, exchanging stories and laughter, Benjamin felt the weight of isolation begin to lift. "You've always had a way with the earth, Ben. I remember the way you spoke about your father," she said, kneeling beside him. "He'd be so proud." At the mention of his father, a swell of emotion surged through Benjamin. "I hope so. He taught me that every storm holds a lesson. I think I am finally understanding that." Martha nodded, her hands moving effortlessly through the soil. "It's good to see you smiling again. We've all missed you around here." Days passed and soon, the garden flourished under the care of enthusiastic volunteers. What had once been a dilapidated corner of his farm was now a haven, alive with the laughter of children and the chatter of families learning to plant their own seeds. Words of encouragement and praise poured in from the community, and with every new visitor, Benjamin's heart swelled with renewed purpose. One sunny afternoon, as he worked alongside local children, teaching them how to plant carrot seeds, David arrived with a box of supplies. "Hey, Benjamin, I can't believe the turnout today. This is amazing." Benjamin wiped the sweat from his forehead and grinned. I didn't think anyone would care, but look at them, they're full of energy and excitement. It feels incredible. David set the box down, revealing colorful signs for the garden. Let us make this place even more inviting, a proper name perhaps, something that resonates with everyone. What do you think about Maplewood Community Garden? It reflects the heart of our town, Benjamin suggested, watching as the children eagerly gathered around, their tiny hands busy with dirt. Perfect. Let us unveil it at the launch event. We should celebrate this beautiful transformation. David exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. As the weeks progressed, Benjamin's heart surged with a sense of belonging. Through the community garden, he had forged new friendships, rekindled old ones, and breathed life back into his once quiet farm. The vision of a launch event became a reality, with families and friends rallying together to help. However, just as it seemed like everything was falling into place, dark clouds loomed on the horizon both literally and metaphorically. A severe drought struck Maplewood, and the nearby river that fed Benjamin's crops began to dry up. The worry itched itself across his face as he stood at the edge of his property, the parched earth cracking beneath his feet. He spent sleepless nights wondering how he would keep the garden alive. What if the community lost interest? What if this blossoming hope withered away before it could flourish? Each morning felt heavier than the last, and the bright smiles he received from the children began to feel like a reminder of what might be lost. One evening, after a particularly taxing day, Benjamin found himself sitting under the old oak tree, its branches now bare. He closed his eyes, trying to recall the sound of his father's voice amidst the rustling of leaves. "It is okay to feel lost, Ben. Just remember, even the strongest trees bend in this storm." With renewed resolve, Benjamin stood up and headed home, ready to face the challenge head-on. He gathered the volunteers and called a meeting in the barn. "We were facing a serious drought. We need to find a way to keep the garden alive. We can't let our hard work go to waste." Martha raised her hand, her determination unyielding. "Why don't we establish a rainwater collection system? We can gather every drop we can get." "Brilliant," David chimed in. "I can help source materials for it. We can make it an educational workshop, show the community how to be resourceful." As ideas flowed and plans took shape, Benjamin felt the flicker of hope reignite within him. Each suggestion, each voice in that barn reminded him that together they could weather any storm. The next week was filled with tireless energy and camaraderie. Local businesses donated barrels, and families volunteered to assist in building the collection system. Children painted signs, while others set up an educational booth explaining the importance of water conservation. The garden, once again, became a hub of activity and enthusiasm. Each raindrop that fell, no matter how small, was celebrated. When dark clouds finally gathered and rain poured down, the laughter of children echoed through the air as they danced in the puddles. The lunch event was a beautiful success. Families gathered, sharing meals made from produce harvested from the garden. They listened to workshops led by David and Benjamin, learning about sustainability, community, and the importance of resilience. As Benjamin watched the celebration unfold, he found himself surrounded by those he had once thought lost to the struggles of modern life. Faces illuminated by joy, he realized how deeply they were all intertwined, their stories woven together like the vines climbing the trellis they had built. "Look at what we've created," Benjamin said to David, who stood beside him. "I never would have imagined this." David smiled, his eyes reflecting the satisfaction of their hard work. "This is just the beginning. You've shown everyone here that resilience can blossom, even in the harshest conditions." But just as the joy settled in, a familiar concern crept back into Benjamin's heart. "I still worry about the drought. What if we can't sustain this?" "Then we adapt," David replied with a reassuring tone. "Just like the plants, remember, it is not about avoiding storms, it is about learning to grow through them." As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Benjamin felt a sense of peace wash over him. He gazed at the faces around him, each one a testament to the strength of community. They were no longer just neighbors, but a family united by hope, resilience, and a shared dream. In that moment, Benjamin knew he had stepped beyond the confines of fear and isolation. He had emerged stronger, anchored by the kindness of those around him. Together, they had turned a struggling farm into a thriving community garden, not just for the sake of crops, but for the nourishment of each other's spirits. As laughter mingled with the sound of clinking glasses and the vibrant colors of the setting sun painted the sky, Benjamin felt a surge of gratitude. The storms had indeed come, but they had also brought forth a beautiful growth, the kind that could only flourish when nurtured by love, kindness, and unwavering resilience. And so, under the open sky filled with stars, the farmer who once walked in the rain now stood among a community that had weathered the storms together, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. They were bound by the shared belief that even in the darkest times, the light of hope would always find a way to shine through. The community garden buzzed with life, a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds weaving together a vibrant tapestry of hope. Benjamin stood among the rows of budding vegetables, feeling a sense of accomplishment that he hadn't experienced in years. The sun-drenched earth, once parched and cracked, now thrived under the care of his neighbors who had become friends. "Hey, Ben, look at these tomatoes," shouted Lily, a bright-eyed girl of about 10, as she pointed to the plump red fruits gleaming amidst the green leaves. "Those are looking fantastic, Lily. Just remember to check under the leaves for any pests," Benjamin replied, chuckling as he wiped dirt from his hands. His heart swelled with pride watching her enthusiasm. "Got it, I'll make sure they're safe," she promised, her determination shining through. As the weeks rolled on, the garden had transformed not just the land, but the souls within the community. Families with children, elders sharing stories, and young volunteers gathered regularly. The air was filled with laughter and the mingling aromas of fresh soil, herbs, and blossoming flowers. Yet, beneath the joyous surface, Benjamin felt the weight of uncertainty. The drought that had threatened their garden was still a looming specter. Despite their rainwater collection efforts, he knew that the next dry spell could wreak havoc on their progress. He often found himself staring at the sky, willing the clouds to gather, praying for sustenance for the garden that had become a lifeline. One afternoon, as Benjamin tended to the sunflowers towering over the garden, Martha approached, her brow furrowed in concern. "Ben, we need to talk about the water situation," he sighed, setting down his trowel. "I know, Martha, I've been worried too. The last rain didn't bring nearly enough. We can't let this fear paralyze us," she said gently. "The community spirit has grown strong here. Maybe we can organize a water conservation workshop to teach others how to gather and use water efficiently." Benjamin nodded slowly, realizing she was right. "That's a great idea. I'll reach out to David. He'll have connections to help us spread the word." As they walked back towards the barn, Benjamin felt a renewed sense of purpose. It was in the darkest moments that light could shine brightest, and he was resolved not to let despair dim the garden's glow. Days turned into weeks, and word spread about the upcoming workshop. On the day of the event, the barn was filled with eager faces, young and old. David stood at the front, animatedly discussing ways to save water and maximize its use in gardening. "Remember, it is not solely about the quantity of water, but how we utilize what we have," he emphasized. "Each drop is precious." Benjamin watched, filled with admiration. The way David spoke brought a spark to the crowd, igniting their interest. After the presentation, they broke into smaller groups, each discussing unique conservation methods. As the workshop wrapped up, Benjamin felt a surge of gratitude. The community was rallying together, not just surviving but thriving. Yet, just as they began to celebrate their progress, an unexpected call came in from the weather service. A severe storm was forecasted for the following week. "Do you really think it will be that bad?" Benjamin asked David, the unease evident in his voice. "It might be, but we can prepare. We'll strengthen the structure of the garden, ensure our newly built rainwater system can handle the influx," David suggested. The thought of a storm induced a pit of dread in Benjamin's stomach. The last thing he wanted was to see the garden they had nurtured washed away. "Let us gather everyone tomorrow and devise a plan. This is our moment to show resilience." The next day, a sense of urgency filled the air as neighbors arrived at the farm. They divided into teams, each handling different aspects, reinforcing the rainwater system, skewering the plants, and creating barriers to protect the soil. "Give it all you've got, team," Benjamin shouted, feeling adrenaline pulse through him. Working side by side with his community, he felt a sense of unity that transcended their individual struggles. They were not just protecting the garden, they were safeguarding the hope that had blossomed within them. As the sky darkened with ominous clouds, Benjamin looked around at the faces of those who had come together in solidarity. "No matter what happens, we've rebuilt something beautiful here. We'll weather this storm." With that, the first raindrops fell, gentle at first, but soon turning into a torrent. The wind howled and the storm raged. Benjamin stood at the edge of the garden, watching as the rain pelted the earth, feeling both fear and hope swell within him. The rainwater system, fortified by their hard work, began to overflow, channeling water into the very soil they had tended. It felt like a miracle. Every droplet that fell was a testament to their resilience, washing away doubt and fear. As the storm raged on, laughter filled the barn where families had sought refuge. Children raced around, splashing in puddles, while the adults exchanged stories and laughter, finding joy amid chaos. Benjamin felt his heart swell as Martha handed him a cup of steaming tea. "You know, Ben, I think this storm is a blessing in disguise," she said, her eyes gleaming with hope. "It is a reminder that even the fiercest storms can nourish the earth." "I've always believed that storms have a purpose," Benjamin replied, reflecting on his father's wisdom. "And today, I see how they strengthen our determination." The storm eventually subsided, leaving behind a refreshed earth and a community that had stood strong together. As the sun peeked through the clouds, Benjamin stepped out into the garden. What lay before him was a sight that made his heart race. Plants thrived, the vibrant colors intensified as if nature itself rejoiced in the aftermath. "Look at this, everyone," he called out, his voice filled with awe. "We did it together, the garden is alive." Cheers erupted from the gathered crowd, their spirits soaring like the birds that danced above them. They began to work together once more, clearing debris and ensuring everything was in its place. The storm had passed, but its impact was tangible. Over the following weeks, Benjamin noted how the garden flourished more than ever. Crops yielded bountifully, and the community grew even closer, sharing meals made from the harvest. They hosted gatherings filled with laughter, stories, and the warmth of connection, cementing their bond. But one evening, as Benjamin stood at the edge of the garden, he felt a twinge of melancholy. He had always feared storms, but now he understood the lessons they brought. Yet, he wondered, what if another drought hit? What if external forces threatened to tear this newfound connection apart? David approached, sensing Benjamin's unease. "What is on your mind?" "I am just afraid, David. I don't want to lose this community, this garden," Benjamin confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Fear is natural, especially after what we've faced, but remember what we've done together. We've proven our strength," David reassured him. "Embrace the uncertainty. It can lead to growth in ways you never imagined." Benjamin took a deep breath, absorbing David's words. He realized that the beauty of life lay not in avoiding storms, but in how one chose to dance in the rain to find joy amidst challenges. With that resolve, he organized a community meeting to discuss plans for the future. "We weathered storms and flourished together," he began, his heart racing. "Let us use our experience to prepare. Let us build not just for today, but for tomorrow." Ideas flourished as they brainstormed ways to ensure their garden remained resilient. They discussed crop rotation, sustainable practices, and even started a seed bank to preserve varieties that thrived in the region. As months passed, the Maplewood community garden continued to thrive. Children visited after school, learning about planting and caring for the earth's bounty. Families gathered for picnics, sharing meals crafted from ingredients grown with love and dedication. And yet, through it all, Benjamin learned that the true heart of the garden wasn't in the soil or the crops, it was in the people who tended to it. The farmer who once walked in rain had not only nurtured a garden, but had cultivated hope, resilience, and a shared mission that connected everyone. One crisp autumn day, Benjamin stood in the garden, now bursting with rich colors of fall. He looked around at the faces of his friends and neighbors, hearts warm with the knowledge that they had built something lasting together. "Thank you all for believing in this vision," he said, his voice warm with gratitude. "We've shown that, like the best crops, we can grow through the storms, not just survive them." As they gathered to celebrate the harvest, laughter echoed through the air, painting a picture of a community bound by resilience and kindness. Each plate filled with colors reflected the journey they had taken together, a journey that continued to blossom with each season. And in that moment, as Benjamin gazed at the faces filled with joy, he knew that even in the face of uncertainty, they would always find a way to grow together, rooted in hope and love, steadfast through any storm. ***, the farmer walked in the rain until a businessman changed his whole life. Part for ***. The Maplewood community garden was now alive with energy and laughter, a vibrant heart beating in the chest of the town. Benjamin stood amidst the rows of kale and squash, the glorious colors of autumn bursting forth like a chorus of joy. The scent of fresh herbs danced in his nostrils, reminding him of the journey he had embarked upon, a journey that transformed despair into hope. As he leaned down to inspect the corn stalks, a familiar voice broke through his thoughts. "Ben," called out Martha, her voice bubbling with excitement. "You won't believe the size of these pumpkins." Benjamin straightened up, wiping his hands on his overalls. "Show me." He followed her to a corner of the garden where, indeed, massive pumpkins loomed, the bright orange skin glowing against the backdrop of green foliage. "Look at this beauty," she said, pointing to a pumpkin that was nearly as big as she was. "We should have a contest. The biggest one wins a pie-making class from Mrs. Aldridge." Benjamin chuckled, imagining the fun. That sounds like a fantastic idea. Let us put it on the community board. It'll be a great way to bring everyone together for the Harvest Festival. As they brainstormed, the garden buzzed with activity. Children dashed about, gathering vegetables to take home, while their parents shared stories of the past week's volunteering efforts. The warmth of laughter enveloped them all, and Benjamin felt a sense of belonging deeper than he had ever known. Yet even in moments of bliss, shadows of doubt still lingered. The drought that had threatened them earlier was only a memory, but the weather pattern seemed unpredictable. Benjamin often found himself glancing at the sky, wondering if the storms they had once celebrated would return, or if another drought would chase the joy away. One afternoon, while Benjamin was inspecting the newly built rainwater collection system, David approached, his smile bright against the grey sky. "Hey there, Benjamin, can we chat for a second?" "Of course, David, what's on your mind?" Benjamin replied, wiping his brow and leaning against the wooden railing. "I've been hearing concerns from some community members," David began, his tone shifting to one of seriousness. "They're worried about what happens if we face another drought. They think we should invest in more sustainable practices." Benjamin felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. "I've thought about that too, but I don't know if we can afford new equipment or systems right now. Our funds are limited." David nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it, but we can't wait for the next storm to be proactive. Why not host a community meeting to discuss this? We can brainstorm ideas together." "Good idea," Benjamin said slowly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I just hope they don't see this as a failure." "Failure? No, my friend. It's about growth," David said firmly. "This garden is a testament to resilience. You've transformed not just your farm, but the entire community. It's time to think long-term." Benjamin took a deep breath, appreciating David's reassurance. "All right, let's do it. We'll hold a meeting next week." As he walked away, Benjamin felt the knot in his stomach tighten. Would the community understand the need for change? He had witnessed the power of their unity, but could they channel that strength into a new direction? The day of the meeting arrived, and the barn buzzed with anticipation. Families filtered in, taking their seats, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Benjamin stood at the front, heart racing as he surveyed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady but soft. "This garden has brought us together in a way I never thought possible. We've created a vibrant community, and I am grateful." Applause rippled through the barn, filling him with warmth. "However, I want to address something important. As we all know, the weather can be unpredictable. I think it's time we start thinking long-term about sustainable practices. We need to prepare for the future." Murmurs of agreement filled the air, but also whispers of uncertainty. "What kind of practices?" someone called out from the back. Benjamin took a deep breath. "We could implement crop rotation and plant drought-resistant varieties. We can also look into creating a small greenhouse to extend our growing season. We could even establish a community compost system," another voice chimed in. It was Lily, the bright-eyed girl who had first shown Benjamin her tomatoes. "Then we can use the compost to help the soil." "Fantastic idea, Lily," Benjamin exclaimed, his heart swelling with pride. The enthusiasm of the children reminded him of the spark he had felt when he first began planting again. "What else can we do? Let us hear your thoughts." Voices soared as ideas flowed. They discussed partnerships with local businesses willing to sponsor educational workshops. They planned to distribute flyers to raise awareness about water conservation practices. Each suggestion ignited a fire in Benjamin's heart, reminding him of their collective strength. As the meeting drew to a close, Benjamin felt renewed hope coursing through him. "Thank you all for your input. Let us set a date for the sustainability workshop, and we can get started on these projects together." As the crowd began to disperse, Martha approached Benjamin, her eyes bright. "You did an amazing job, Ben. I think this is exactly what we needed to hear." "Thanks, Martha. I just hope everyone stays motivated. Change can be daunting." "True, but it's also exciting. Look at how far we've come. We've built this garden from the ground up. We can tackle anything together," she said, her words a balm to his anxiety. Days turned into weeks, and the community engaged with renewed vigor. Workshops were held, and families volunteered to help build the compost system. The barn was alive with the sound of hammers and laughter as they constructed a small greenhouse using reclaimed materials. Each evening, Benjamin felt the transformative power of hope growing stronger. But just as things seemed to stabilize, uncertainty loomed on the horizon once again. The weather forecast warned of a severe cold snap approaching, threatening the tender seedlings in the greenhouse. Panic gripped Benjamin's heart as he watched the temperatures drop. As he paced the floorboards of his home that night, he felt the familiar weight of fear settling back in. What if all this work goes to waste? What if we lose everything we've rebuilt? The next morning, he woke up to frost covering the ground, glistening like a layer of glass in the early light. He hurried to the greenhouse, heart pounding as he opened the door. The plants inside were shivering but intact. Relief washed over him, yet anxiety clawed at his insides. He gathered the volunteers for an emergency meeting. We need to act quickly. We can protect our seedlings with blankets and bales of hay. The more we can shield them from the cold, the better. The group sprang into action. Children carried blankets, while adults arranged bales of hay around the greenhouse, creating a protective barrier against the harsh chill. As they worked, laughter and camaraderie filled the air, binding them together in a shared purpose. This is what it's all about. David shouted over the wind, a smile spreading across his face. Teamwork can conquer any challenge. Benjamin stepped back, watching as the community came together, united against the cold. In that moment, he realized that the garden was more than just crops. It symbolized their collective resilience, a testament to the human spirit. After several hours of hard work, they finally finished fortifying the greenhouse. As night fell, Benjamin stood with David under the stars, the chill of the air contrasting with the warmth in his heart. "I've learned something through all of this," Benjamin said, his voice thick with emotion. "It is not just about guarding against the storms, it is about facing them together, and knowing that whatever happens, we have each other's backs." "Absolutely, we've recreated something that can withstand any challenge, Ben," David replied. "This garden is a beacon of hope for everyone, and it will continue to shine as long as we nurture it." As winter settled in, the community remained active. They held workshops on preserving food, taught children how to create winter gardens, and even organized potluck dinners to keep spirits high. Benjamin watched as bonds grew stronger, laughter echoed in the chilly air, and the garden became a place of refuge and warmth. Spring eventually arrived, bringing life back to Maplewood and a sense of renewal. As the days lengthened, Benjamin found himself in the garden once more, planting seedlings with his neighbors. The air buzzed with promise, and Benjamin could feel the energy of hope rising around him. One sunny afternoon, as they worked the soil, Benjamin paused and looked around at the faces of those who had become his family. "Thank you all for being here," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "This garden represents everything we rebuilt together. Our resilience has yielded more than just crops, it has nurtured the community." A cheer erupted from the group, and the joy of the moment washed over him like a warm summer breeze. They had endured hardships, faced fears, and transformed their struggles into growth. As they planted the last row of seedlings, Martha approached. "Ben, I think we should host a celebration this summer, a festival to honor our journey in the garden." Benjamin felt a swell of excitement.